to make it comfortable so people can make mistakes, so people can ask questions, and ultimately so people can get better.
I think every single person can work harder, including myself. And so I think these are really important times because I think they're the wake-up calls. To sum it up in one word, I'd say grit.
What's up, guys? It's Coach Sko here, and welcome to another episode of Timeout with Sko. Today, I have a guest who is one of my clients. His name is Cole. Cole is a junior, 6'4", shooting guard, goes to Chaminade High School. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
One of the things that I think would be cool to kind of introduce is just how we met. When you were in 8th grade, my assistant coach was at the park, and you were at the park, you're working out by yourself.
100%, yeah.
And he came up to you and introduced himself, and at the time I was the head coach at El Camino High School, which you were planning coincidentally to attend to.
Yep.
And you came that Saturday to an open run that we had. And that was the first time that you and I had met.
First time, yeah.
And since then, we've been working together. It's been 3 or 4 years now, almost 4.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's really crazy. But I want you to talk about the park, because you working out at the park is something that I feel like a lot of kids now don't want to do. And it's kind of where you really started your basketball journey. And when you look at the game and you look at a lot of these greats and you hear D Rose and you hear all of these players that have played and started their journey at the park, I think there's something that's really cool and special about that. And I want you to talk about just kind of how you started your basketball journey, what playing at the park has kind of meant and done for you, and like the toughness that it's kind of taught you and instilled throughout the years.
100%. So I grew up right down the street from Tarzana Park, which is the park that he met me at. And I remember the first time my dad took us there. We were pretty new to the city. We had moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. And I remember walking with him to the park for the first time. We had just got a basketball. There was a Big Five on the way. So we stopped at Big Five, got a ball. And we went there. And so this is before we knew anything really about the city. We didn't know that there were rec leagues, stuff like that. So we just showed up on the outdoor court and just, I'm 4 or 5 years old. I think 5 or 6, somewhere around that, And I remember just shooting with him and just falling in love with the game every time. Was I close to making it? Not at all. But it was the goal, the hope that I'm going to make one shot one day. So we came back over and over again, every Sunday, every Saturday we could, after school, whenever we could, just throughout the week. And then my mom did some researching because she figured out that, like, oh, he really, really likes this, right? This is his passion. So found out there was a rec league, immediately signed me up. She was like, I need to get him from running off these walls. And so from there on, I started playing in a rec league at Tarzana Park, played there for a couple of years. And after playing in the rec league, there was a travel team called True School Basketball who played and practiced outside. The rec league was obviously indoors, but they practiced outside. So they caught my attention through practicing outside, and they asked me if I wanted to join. And I just started playing with them. And as far as you were saying, it's like, what does playing outdoor teach you? It's to sum it up in one word, I'd say grit. There's for an example, falling down like outside, like you getting hit on the ground hurts so much more outside. You're scraping your hands, your knees, constant small injuries like that. And then the small things is like if it's a windy day, like learning to adjust and adapt, like that stuff. Those are challenges you don't have to go through necessarily when you're playing indoors. And the stuff that you can just learn, like you learn the playing in the cold weather, playing in the hot weather. It's just all those small things that really teach you to adapt, like I said, through the different climates and different challenges that you face playing outdoors. I'd also just say it's a testimony to, like, a lot of kids say, like, oh, if I had the opportunity to do this, oh, if I had a gym pass, I could go. Like, there's in LA, there's parks everywhere down the street. Like, if you really, if there's really not one close to you, there's buses that'll take you to a park. Your parents could drop you off depending on your situation. So I'm saying a park is a great way to, like, if you really don't have any other option, just go to the park. It's always there for you. It's free. It's public, and it's something that definitely taught me as a person just to be a lot tougher.
One of the coolest stories, or I guess maybe funniest stories that I've heard about you, is you played on a Friday night. You had a game, and in that game, you didn't play well. And the next morning, you went before anybody was up in the household. You walked, which is at least a mile from your house. So you walked to the park. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 in the morning. There was no lights. You couldn't see anything. Sun wasn't out. And I remember your mom was texting me, and she asked me where you were. And I was obviously asleep at the time, so I didn't answer.
Yeah.
She figured we were probably at some early morning workout.
Mm-hmm.
And she just so happened to say, hey, I'm going to get in the car and drive to the park. And she drove to the park and saw you there. And I think the cool thing was that after she saw you, she didn't leave. She turned her lights on so that way you could shoot. And I think that's just a testament to, like, not just your sacrifice, but also your family's sacrifice. And I think, you know, for kids your age, you're constantly going to tournaments, you're going to practices, right? You have weight room. There's certain things that you need to go to, and you, in a lot of ways, rely on your parents to help you.
100%.
And I think it'd be really cool to talk about how your family has served as a support system for you in your journey.
100%. So I think it all goes back to when I was really little. Like I'm 3 years old, so we're still living in Atlanta, Georgia at this time. And my dad, we didn't have any assets. We didn't have anything to our name. My parents had just gone together at a really young age. They had me and two other of my siblings. They were pregnant with the last one, a dog in the car. And they decided to move to California by themselves in a van and with no idea about anything. And my dad would always wanted to be a filmmaker, right? So he put us all in the van and took a 3-day road trip to California. We lived in a motel for a little bit, and then we finally found a spot to settle down. And every single day since then, he has worked so hard. Like just like he taught me how to wake up early. He taught me all these things that I need and are crucial to my day to day. He taught me. It comes down to just he instilled such a such a good discipline in me, and it's just I've learned it all from him as far as like how I can work harder, who I can rely on, and he's just everything that in that situation or in that circumstance he's done for me. Now as far as my mom, I don't think there's a more caring mom out there. As far as like I could go on for hours giving you every single example. Like I could give you an example for every day from my life of something that she does for me and how much she does for me. Whether it's me transitioning schools, she's on top of it. Whether it's me like registering me for the right teams and the right programs, she's on top of it. Getting to know all the coaches and what's really the best fit for me, nutrition, sleep, everything. They've been such a backbone and such a given me such a strong structure to work from, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. They've done everything for me. Yeah.
Yeah, your family's great. I've gotten really close with them over the last couple years, and it's been awesome to get to know them and to get to know you and your brother and your sisters. And I think something that you mentioned is super important. Through your basketball journey, you've gone to a number of different schools, and I think through your experiences going to those different schools, you've picked up skills along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about some of those skills and maybe some of the mindset shifts that you've had to have in order to transfer different schools, work with different coaches, play with different players, you know, have different teachers, be in different environments? Like, talk more about that.
Yeah, so I've had a pretty I have a pretty colorful palette when it comes to I've played at a public school, I've played at a prep school, and I'm now playing at a private school. So I've had a taste of all these different kind of environments, like you said. And so I'd say from public, going straight to public out of middle school, it was very gritty, tough environment. And I think as far as you said, like some of the mindset changes I've had to make. So I used to be someone that was very, I took everything very seriously as far as like we had a bad game. I was like, it did a lot to me mentally. I'd be like, oh, this is that, this is this. And I've been able to really zoom out and be like, everything's going to work out. Like, you have a bad day, you have a bad week, you go in a shooting slump, whatever. It's like, you have to just have that kind of, I've been able to build that inner confidence that's like, no matter what happens, like, I got this. Like, as far as like, it's a cliche, but it's like, at the end of the day, I know that I'm going to get to where I need to be. And I can't let any small things change that. Or like, so I've learned that from a lot of different experiences. Hence that night, you mentioned when I went to the park the next morning. It's good and bad as far as like it is good because it makes me work harder. Like you have a bad game, it's like you're thinking, oh, I'm so far from where I need to be. I need to go work now. Like 4 a.m. I need to go now. Versus so that's the good part of it. The bad part of it is like you got to be able to like you have a bad game, like it's gonna happen. You watch the pros, you watch collegiate athletes, and they have bad games, and it's like you got to be able to just stay mentally stable through it all and just be like it's all gonna work out, as Lil Wayne said, let it all work out. But yeah, playing at the different environments is definitely, I talked about it a little bit earlier, is the being able to adapt, being able to like change from environment to environment is really important. Like because you need to have a mix of both. You need to be able to stay yourself wherever you go because you got to be yourself. But also being able to change to fit in the different environments as far as different coaches. I've had a pretty, like I said, similar to the environments of schools that I've been in, I've had very different coaches. I've had some of the more tough, some of the more very like just you got to go and get it, you got to go and win kind of coaches. Versus that, I've had some of the smarter coaches that are more keep to themselves, very strategic. So yeah, I've had a mix of all of them, and I think it's really built to make me the player I am today because I'm able to now take in all these different like ways to learn, and I've had to learn like if this coach says this, he really means this, right? Or and also this is something I've had to personally overcome is when a coach says something, it's to help me. For me, it's like no matter how they say it, they could be yelling at the top of their lungs. It's at the end of the day, it's only to get me to where I need to be or where I want to be, and they're just doing that for me. So I've had to learn how to take that in and how to take it as not criticism, but just, as you say, tough love.
Yeah, speaking of you just having a lot of different coaches, can you maybe think back to a time or something that a coach said to you that you still remember to this day that was really impactful and that maybe helped you shift a mindset, maybe helped you perform better? Can you remember back to just something one of those coaches had said to you? It could be me, maybe it's another coach.
It is a matter of fact you. This was when I was at El Camino. This was after you had been there, but it was during a rough patch during the season, and I remember you telling me confidence is everything. And that, just put quotations right around that. That's really stuck with me. There was, like I said, during this rough patch, there was a time where I was like, I was almost scared to shoot. And I know as crazy as that sounds, I'd catch the ball in the corner, and I would be so unconfident of it going in, I wouldn't want to shoot. And that's crazy to me now with my skill set. I feel like that's just an insane, like, it just feels like a whole different planet almost. And I remember having a long conversation with you and you telling me confidence is everything. And from that day, I just told myself that every day. And since then, my confidence is through the roof. Sometimes it's too high. And it's
better higher and we can bring it back down.
100%. It's really taught me as far as like just when I'm warming up for a big game, right? Say there's a big crowd, I tell myself confidence is everything. I tell myself that every game, before a game, when I wake up, stuff like that. It's really been a big part of my life because it really teaches me as a player that you miss, like you say, you miss a couple shots, you miss a couple of this. You can't remember those shots because it'll affect how you shoot the next one. You got to go into every shot with the confidence is everything kind of mindset because this next shot's in. If you're confident in it, the chances of it going in are so much higher versus if you're not confident in it. Like if you don't think you're gonna make it, we're like, what are we doing? We're at a lost cause here. So if your confidence is up and you think you're gonna make it, your chances of making it go up.
Have you read the book Inner Game of Tennis?
Yeah, I have. It's such a good book.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest books. It's one of the sort of structures that I like to use to help my players when maybe they're struggling with performance. And I think the first chapter, the first thing that they talk about is, in order for us to really get into like our zone, quote unquote, we have to be able to view what's happening through a non-judgmental lens, right? So if we miss a shot short, right, we have to be able to view it from this lens of not good or bad, but more so analyze it. And when we take the judgment out of it, we take the emotional connection, the emotional kind of high that comes with that, we kind of eliminate that so we can much more clearly analyze the situation for what it is versus good and bad. Talk about some of that, and you mentioned some of it right now with just, being confident and maintaining confidence, but what does that book, how has that book helped you improve your performance? And what is one thing that you would take from that book that you would want to share with somebody else who may be struggling to perform at their best?
I think something the book does a really good job of is eliminating overthinking, especially during a game. A lot of times when you ask when the pros have answered these questions, they'll say, like Steph Curry, for example, what do you think about when you're shooting? And his answer was absolutely nothing. I think during a game, the best way to get into a flow state, as they call it, or like what do they say? What do they say when a player is going out of his mind? They say he's hot. They say he can't see. Right? They say all these things that have something.
Subconscious.
They say all these things have to do with the elimination of our senses, and I think that's really important. I think a lot of players go into games really anxious, really just thinking about so many things. Right? Whether you're thinking about the moment, like in the game, or you're thinking about previous possessions, you're thinking about who's in the crowd watching. You have to eliminate all of that, and I think the book does a really good job of that because they mention the science of the brain and how it works as far as like, especially in sports, is like the best players usually aren't thinking about anything, and I think that if you can take that and you can cultivate it in your own way, I think that's the best way to just really keep your mind free, because then I feel like it allows for so much more potential as an athlete to really maximize.
Yeah, I love that. Can you think back to a moment that's really shaped your career? Something that was a defining moment. Can be good, bad, but something that's really shaped your career, who you are, and that's had an impact on, your journey.
Man, that's a tough question. There's so many moments to think about. I'd say playing at BTI. It was a game. It was actually an evaluation. It was my first evaluation. So coming in, a lot of these programs, they rely on, I hate to say it, but politics, connections, private schools, money, all of this stuff. And coming in, I knew no one. I didn't know one coach there. I didn't know one player there. I was genuinely on an island. However, I will say, back to mentioning family, I am very used to this as far as being the oldest. You have to go to all these schools by yourself. You have to pave the way for your younger siblings as far as, is this a good fit? And then you can share your experience with your younger siblings. So I am used to being in a place where I'm the one that has to navigate, explore. So that was something I'm pretty used to. But it was at an evaluation, and I just knew no one. And this was actually right after I had read the book, The Inner Game of Tennis. So I was very confident in myself. I was very just my whole mindset had just found a whole new chapter to say. And so I went into this evaluation not nervous, because I really took the fear of everyone else. And I walked in and I was like, so if everyone else is scared, I have such an advantage of knowing that and just using that, as far as if everyone else is nervous and they don't think they're going to make their shots, how much better can I be if I just think I'm going to make my shots? How much better can I be if I know that they're not as confident as I am and I'm going to go out here and do me? And so I really look at that as the best way of having no nerves, especially in tryouts. Just like I said, knowing everyone else is not as confident as you are really will push yourself forward, because you'll just get to be yourself. And at the end of the day, that's what coaches want. So whether that's talking on defense, jumping higher for the rebound, all these, making the right pass, being yourself as a player, being nervous holds you back from all of that. So using that in evaluation. But anyway, back to your question. I hadn't the evaluation started, and I was just kind of doing my thing, right? And we got towards the end of it. I had done well. Like, I'd fit in. I feel like I'd stand out a little bit, but more than I needed to do a little more if I wanted to make the top team. And we started doing this 5-on-5 drill, and it was with a lot of people. Like, probably 100 kids in the gym, and maybe 40 parents lined up around the baseline. All the coaches are watching this court. And I remember we were playing 5-on-5 with me and my team, and I hadn't really proved to my team yet that I can play basketball. I hadn't proved that I had the skills. So it was one possession that started it, and I just got swung. It was a swing, right? Ball got skipped, one more to the corner, and I hit it. And it was from that shot on, it was as they call the flow state. It was coming down. It was transition threes, off the screen threes, and it was just the crowd cheering louder every time. And it was just a really, like, I walked out of that evaluation just like so confident as far as, like, I was like, I was really happy because I proved to them that I can play. And from that moment on, my career with BTI has been really successful. And I think it all stemmed from that moment. And that moment also just paved the way for every time that I feel like maybe I'm not like doing so well. Every time that I'm like, oh, I need to do better. I remember that. Like, every time I doubt myself, I remember that I'm like, I can do this. So that was probably a good moment for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you sharing that moment with me when it happened. So I could see how that would be a really impactful moment in your career. Something I think that's also a huge topic in sports today and just our world, especially for athletes, is social media. And, I want to talk to you about, as a player and as, a young kid, how do you navigate social media? How do you use it in a positive way? I think, it's really interesting. One of the conversations that I had with a player that I was working with, at the end of every session, how we always go around and, we'll say one thing we're grateful for and, we'll compliment somebody else.
100%.
And in this session specifically, it was right before New Year's. And so I was going around, and this was with my middle school group, and I was asking them, what would be one of your intentions for this upcoming year? And one of the things that he said was that he wants to stop comparing himself to other players, right? And this is somebody who's 5 years younger than you. And so it really painted this picture that, like, social media is a huge part of our basketball world nowadays and the highlight culture. And,
it is.
I'm curious to know how that's impacted you, how you're able to, take what you see and not compare yourself to that, and how you're also able to use social media more as a positive outlet for you to be seen and, have exposure to coaches and, events and things of that nature. And just how you've been able to kind of use that in a positive light in your own career.
Yeah, like you said, this is, I feel like, the big elephant in the room, as you will. The highlight culture, it's there. It's booming. You'll see a dunk and maybe a couple threes, and you'll like you said, compare yourself. So a lot of players, especially young players who are like still unsure as far as if they really want to commit and take this all the way and really just bet on themselves, they see this and they're like, man, I don't have what it takes. Like, I'm not even close to touching the rim, or I can't like imagine hitting those threes, when in reality they really can. They don't trust themselves. And I think that like how you brought up comparing yourselves, I think that's a real problem. That's the negative. I talk about the positive is, like, for example, some of the videos you post that have to do with all of the different drills. I think that can be really helpful. From when we talked about, remember, the park, for kids that are going to the park, if they see your video and they're like, oh man, like, I really need to work on my mid-range pull-up, you give them like 6 different drills to work on it. And I think that's a positive light. They can really learn. They can take the good things from it. But yeah, it's for me personally, I've been able to, I think, stay out of the comparing yourself. And my mom's pretty active in the social media world, so she's made sure that I am safe and I use it the right way. But yeah, comparing yourself is a pretty like detrimental thing to I think a lot of young kids' careers, and especially as kids keep getting younger on social media and like the age. I feel like the age should be at least like a teenager, like at least 13. You should then have some access to social media. So I think it's a good and bad, like the yin yang. I think there's light in the dark and dark in the light. So I think there's a mix of both.
One of the videos that I posted, and this was like a few months back. I don't know if you remember it. I think I captioned it like what people think development looks like, and then like a little bit later it says what development actually looks like. And you were in that video, and the video was basically talking about this highlight culture of what we see on social media, right? We see makes. Right, we see dunks, we see shots going in, we see somebody breaking somebody's ankles. But I think the thing that is missing is we are not getting a lot of the real, right? Like how many shots did you miss to make that shot? How many times did you practice that thing before you did it in the game? And it was really cool because a lot of younger kids that see you on my social media and look up to you in a lot of ways that you probably don't know reached out to me personally and mentioned that it was really cool to see you go through workouts and it not be perfect, right? Because most of the things that we post online, it's, this curated content. And so I think that in a lot of ways, like social media could be used for positive. But I think to your point, like it is hard at your age to not compare and to be able to use it in a positive light. And I think it's important that, you talk about it and share knowledge about it and your experiences.
Yeah, totally. It's a great point.
I want to kind of transition and talk about some of the experiences, or I want you to talk about some of the experiences that you've had being in the gym with some of my professional players. And I think, this is something that I think a lot of trainers may be missing, is allowing their younger kids to work with their older kids or rebound or be in the gym or having them just be around those professional guys or women. And, I've really tried to provide those opportunities for my clients, and I know you've got to be a part of some of those. Can you talk about, like, what that's meant for you and your development and just why, it's why and how it's helped you?
Yeah, to say that I've been at few is an understatement. You've allowed me to be in a lot of really cool environments, whether it was Myers Leonard, Drew Hamlin, all these different players, and Reed over there. It's there's a lot of different of these athletes and professionals that I've been able to, whether it's just rebounding for, whether it's defending. I've been able to not only hopefully make an impact on their training, which has just felt like really special to me, but also it's really taught me of just like how hard you really have to work. Like you see these professionals online, and like you say in the NBA, for example, you see them making a lot of shots. You only see the games, you don't really see the practices. So watching them, like how hard they work, how many shots they take, and how many they miss. Like you said, it's really been good to see for me, at least. It's been great. It's been a great learning experience. I've learned so much from, especially I'd like to highlight Myers Leonard. I learned so much from him on and off the court. He taught me a lot about how to be a good person, a lot about just human interaction, all that stuff. But as an athlete, how to go through makes and misses, whether we're talking about off the court, on the court, like when he would miss shots, how he would react. When he would make shots, how he'd react. He'd stay cool, calm, collected the whole time. And it's just been really cool to work with these, or to see these professionals work up close. And I've definitely, I've learned a lot, and I want to thank you for letting me be a part of those situations, because I have learned a lot, and I've benefited from it big time.
Yeah, of course. It's been fun having you around, and I know that the guys really appreciate everything that you've done to help them. And I think the part that's, for players your age that I think can really learn from those environments is, like, we don't do, when we're working out, like, and we can talk about Reed because we, we're with him this summer. Like, we're not getting 10 reps of things, right? And like you notice, like there's a big difference between that in high school and that as you become a professional. As a professional, you're kind of expected, like after 3 reps, after 5 reps, like you should have this down. We should be reaching goals and meeting markers and things of that nature. And I think at the high school level we set goals and we have markers that we want to reach, but we're more so worried about or focused on getting these quantity of reps, right? Getting a lot of reps under our belt. Can you talk about, for you, like in the off season, what your off season schedule looks like, and how do you approach your off season? Obviously outside of like our workouts and things that I approach with you, but what do you do on your own time to help yourself grow?
There's a lot of things, like you said, not to mention, usually in the off season, it's almost daily trainings with you. Whatever location, whatever we can make work, it's the daily training with you, which is I'm so grateful for. A lot of things that I do personally, maybe at my house, so this is for people maybe who don't have the resources. Stretching, so important. A mix of yoga and stretching is just super super beneficial for especially young athletes because it'll help you play longer. Injury prevention is like a real thing, and I think it really could help a lot of athletes. So in the mornings, always stretching, like at least 30 minutes. It's a really good way to clear your mind, turn on music, and just work on yourself. It's a great way to start the day. So I really do recommend that for everyone. Eating, it's been a uphill battle for me. I eat constantly. You can speak to this. So making sure I eat like within every 2 hours. I usually set a time limit or a timer, and I eat every 2 hours to try and gain as much weight as possible with my height continuing to grow. And working out that's been something newer in the past like 3 years since you've known me.
Strength training,
yeah, lifting. So yeah, this is on the daily. So lifting, whether it's any part of your body, legs, arms, back, everything. It's especially I'd say going back to like playing travel ball, AAU, and even high school. Like the strength in basketball is a real thing. You can be the fastest, you can be the tallest, but strength is really gonna like take your game to the next level. And especially at the college level, I've seen so many athletes who genuinely look like Captain America. So it's really motivated me to get in the gym and lift. And it's also like outside of basketball, it's just a really way to maintain your health. And so on the daily of the off season, it's lifting, stretching, daily training, also getting in the gym, and ball handling at home. That's something I've been trying to work on, especially during the off season. Because as far as like our trainings, they might be group sessions, they might be one-on-one sessions, but getting to ball handle is like something that I feel like I can control at my house, at the park, wherever it is. So I think that's something really, really good doing daily. And I'm really someone who really likes routines. So doing something like every day, marking that you've done it every day, making these checklists, that's really like important to me. So I like doing all of those things during the off season. I think it really will help me it has helped me, and I hope it will continue to help me take my game to the next level.
Yeah, I think having short-term goals are really important for success. I think, and to speak to your work ethic and the things that you do in the off season, but also during season as well, like you are constantly putting in the work to improve. And that's something as a coach, like I never have to coach you to go harder or to do more or to work on things in the off season. You're reaching out to me and asking me, hey coach, when's the next workout? How can I get better? What are things that I should be doing? Can you send me this? Can you send me that? And I think a lot of times for players your age, right, they have this concept of what hard work looks like. And then there is reality maybe on the other side of that. And I think a lot of times it's hard for kids your age to be able to understand like what sacrifice actually looks like. So I want to ask you, what do you think the biggest sacrifice you've had to make to be a basketball player?
I don't know if I can speak on the biggest. I can speak on a lot of small ones. This is like one of the smaller ones. Whatever high school it's at, middle school even, lunchtime. spending your lunch like hanging with friends, just laughing, kicking it. A big thing for me as far as academically is I've been able to maximize my time during lunch to do homework. And that way, when I got home from school, to speak on like my time when I was at El Camino, my goal was to go to the park every day after school. In season, off season, it didn't matter. The park every day, whether we had practice after school or we didn't, it was the park every day after school was my goal. And the only way I could do that is if I didn't have homework that night and if I made sure I was doing my studying and taking care of academics during the full school day. So that means nutrition, that means lunch, times when you're supposed to be socializing. And I'm a very, very social person. So it was hard at times. There was times where I was like, oh, there's a pep rally and there's this thing that I want to go to. There's this club that's meeting with all my friends. But I just small sacrifice, had to put it away for the time being because it's like they say, struggle now for a life of success, or like take the easy route now and then have your hard work later down the road. So that's a small one. Another one is
which, by the way, those are actually big ones. Like in a lot of ways, you're sacrificing a lot of what kids do normally, right? You're sacrificing a lot of your high school experience to chase this goal.
Seriously. And to speak more on high school experience, what I was going to bring up next is parties. It's a big thing. It's a big thing you see on whether it's TV, movies, songs. It's a party in the USA, as they say, right? It's a big cultural thing to go to parties in high school and to experience all these things. And I've yet to go to one because it's for me personally, it's just deep down. Every time that I'm at something so like the closest thing to a party I think I've been to is probably a football game, a school football game, and it's like even when I'm there, I'm genuinely like I could be at the gym right now, and I think that kind of like it genuinely like haunts me in the back of my head because it's like, well, that was another night you could have been at the gym, and so I think with that in the back of my mind, I don't really have to worry about that. So it is a sacrifice, but to me, really, I don't have to worry about it because it's I know that there's better things that I could be doing with my time because I've been told this, especially my parents have built this a strong foundation of this in my mind is like you'll have all of the time to party. Like you're not going to just stop. There's not going to be no more parties when you're older and you're successful, hopefully. So I think that I've been able to just put that aside for now. And when people are like, hey, do you want to go to this function? Hey, do you want to go to this party? It's going to be super fun. All these people are going to be there. And it's like, yeah, that does sound nice, but I have better things to do and I have something to chase. And that's why we set goals. So
yeah. And I think to speak on that more, when we are in the pursuit of chasing our goals, failure is also part of that pursuit. And, at times, even for myself, I can struggle to take that next step or to do things because of the fear of failing. So for you, is there a moment or an experience that comes up where, that failure hit you really hard? And how were you able to bounce back from that?
It's really funny that you had already brought this up. And it was that game specifically. It was I really don't know what was so significant about this game. I've had bad games, everyone has, and it's like this there was something about this game in particular. I could talk more about maybe what led up to that, but it's really the failure that ended up being the thing that really changed me, my mindset, and my me as a player. So during the game, I think I just shot the ball really poorly. Like, and for someone like you say, and that I can say for myself, someone who shoots so often, it was just really, really strange. Like it might have been the first time that I really had to like take a step back and like I said, just recalibrate and like refocus and be like, okay, like maybe what I'm doing isn't working. And so whatever I've done personally when I get to these moments is dial it up, like take like a volume knob, turn it up. And I'm someone who always believes you can work harder. Like no one is like is working so hard where that's the limit. I think every single person can work harder, including myself. And so I think these are really important times because I think they're the wake up calls. I think the times that you're like, look, you've been stagnant. You need to turn up, as they say. But I think there's, like I talked about it a little bit earlier, there is a little bit of both where it's like you also have to realize though that it is just a bad game. Like at the end of the day, people are just gonna have off nights, and so being able to maintain that confidence when not shooting well, and what else can you offer, especially on the court? What else can you do when you aren't shooting well? Whether it's the defensive end, rebounding, being a great teammate, something all college coaches look for. So when it's not falling, how do you respond? It's such an important thing because like I keep bringing up college, but that's the next big step for me. So it's something I've been learning a lot about is how do you respond when this happens? Because it's going to happen, especially at the college level. Maybe nerves are going to be higher, and the stakes are going to be higher. So when the stakes are that high and you don't perform well under pressure, how do you respond? And I think that's such an important thing. And I've had to learn that, especially through that experience. We talked about what I did the next morning. That was something that I felt personally that I just needed to do. But it was also just like you can't just have this experience and you can't just go to the park the next morning and then it'd be like, okay, we're good, we're back to normal. Like it has to be an ongoing thing, similar to they say at the start of New Year's. I think it's January 22nd that everyone stops going to the gym. Like that's the day. On average, that's the day most people quit the resolutions. And so I think the discipline, like I told you, that my dad had instilled in me is really important because it allows you when these failures happen and you do set new goals to really stick to them.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of what you talk about how you work hard, you talk about, in a lot of ways, like you have this sort of like obsessive work ethic or like love and passion for basketball, which I've really only seen in a few players. How do you balance? How do you have more balance, and do other things outside of sport, right? Because it's great to have basketball. It's great to love something and be passionate about it.
100%.
But also, how do you balance that, being, somebody you're 17 years old, you're in high school, I'm sure you have other passions and interests outside of, basketball. And can you talk about how those other things actually, and in having balance, how those other things can maybe even improve you as a basketball player?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's been something that I've had to really like genuinely work on, especially in my time being in high school. It was really bad my freshman year. I'm just gonna be completely honest. It was really bad. I had a lot of, I don't want to say a lot. There was a problem, especially that this was like the red flag that I realized like I need to like be able to do both. Is I would be talking to a female, right? You could say romantically, and I would just kind of like this happened multiple times where I would kind of be like I can't have a girlfriend and play basketball. And I would just kind of like, and this would mess up a lot of relationships for me personally because I told them this. I was like, look, I think I need to focus on myself and I need to be so locked in and so hyper obsessive. And that's what I was for my entire freshman year. And then I realized I kind of took a step back and I was like, I can have that. That can still be a thing. And I can still do the other things. I can still have time for pursuing other passions and interests, such as I want to be a music producer, something I want to do on the side of basketball. I feel like I'm pretty musically inclined when it comes to I can play the piano. I'm learning how to play guitar right now, and I've always just been someone who's extremely passionate about music, whether it's that high you get when you're listening to certain songs or playing songs on the freeway with the windows down, stuff like that. Music's always been a big part of my life, so I've had to really learn to balance things like that, whether it's hanging out with friends, right? A lot of times it does end up being hanging out, working out at the gym, but that's okay because that's balancing both things, in my opinion. That's being able to
getting the best of both worlds.
Exactly. Still put the passion and the work in and the time that it takes, because I mean, time is everything. It's now can you be smart about it? Can you spend your time doing both things? And I think learning to do that it's a really important skill that I've had to learn and I'm still learning.
Can you talk about the most underrated skill that you think that you need to have in order to perform well?
100% IQ, without a doubt. It's playing at the gym or playing with some of my friends, playing at the high school level. I feel like I'm someone who has a decent IQ of the game, as far as it comes down to something as simple as like making reads off screens, off of this. Small things like that, it makes you 10 times easier to play with, and I think that's a real important skill when it comes to like what colleges and coaches in general, what they want.
What skill outside of on-court skill do you think is most important?
How so? Do you mean intangibles, or are we talking?
Yeah, could be maybe toughness. It could
Okay.
be, things of that nature that don't require you to be
Like,
skilled at all
yeah,
in the
yeah.
sport.
Man, so it's a tough one. I'm gonna say just the determination, like the willingness to not have someone else tell you to, like you said, go harder. Like the ability to um just to do it yourself, like just to be like so self motivated that you just stand out from whatever crowd, whether you have the skill or not. If you're that motivated and you're that, either your engine is never, it never turns off. There's never a day where a coach sees you and he's like, that's not the person I know, right? That's not the player I know. Like that engine, that ongoing motor, I think is something that separates so many players.
So when you've played for BTI, which is a travel team,
Hmm.
You've gotten to play in front of coaches and, speak with coaches. What have you learned is that coaches like about you the most? And what do you think that coaches, from what you've learned from speaking with them, what do you think that they value the most when they come and watch you play?
Um, there's a couple things. I'd say on court ability, my three point shot selection and shot making ability is something that sticks out to them. But as far as like the intangibles, I think they, from what I've heard from multiple coaches and playing for BTI, but also just growing up, it's just kind of my energy. Whether it's 7 a.m. in a tiny gym, like you could hear me from down the street. And that talks more. That's more than just talking on defense. That's on the bench. That's before the game. That's getting the team going. And I think it's a real skill to have, because a lot of people just maybe they're just quiet. They're shy. That's just not who they are. And I think that's something that I really embrace and take in, because I think it's something that's really important in the sport of basketball. You need to have that person, but also just like um, I feel like I'm a really good teammate. I'd say I feel like when someone, because I think that it's almost like the golden rule. You know what I mean? Learning like how to be a teammate over the years has really taught me, like, be the teammate that you wish you had. That's something that I really like, because it's like being that for other teammates then teaches them how, same way it taught me, it teaches them that ability to just pick others up when they're down, and to motivate them, and to really just, it helps them take their game to the next level, because like I said, coaches hate seeing players who can't be a teammate. Maybe when their teammate misses a shot that you wish they made, how can you respond by lifting them up instead of putting them down? And I've actually learned a lot, having a younger brother, how to do that. There's trust me, there's been ups and downs, but I've learned a lot of how to really just be more positive, especially on the court.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Obviously, being on the coach's perspective of just what you're looking for when you're, recruiting players, or you're wanting them to be a part of your team, or maybe you're, helping a player get somewhere and you're speaking on their behalf. Coaches want to know those things. Like, is he a high energy guy?
Hmm.
Is he a good teammate? How hard does he work? And, I think those things are all true testaments to, who you are as a person. And I think that's why you stand out. Um, Something that I was also thinking about is, sort of prior to you and I working together,
Hmm.
you hadn't really had a trainer before, right?
Yeah.
You played on a team, but you never really did player development. So I'm curious to know, and like we've never talked about this, but what made you decide, right? Maybe initially you went with me as a trainer because I was at Elko, I was your coach. It was
Hmm.
kind of the easy thing to
It
do,
made sense.
right? But now, since I haven't been there for the last few years, what are the things that you enjoy about coming to the sessions? What are the things that, if you were looking for a trainer, like what are the things that you value as a player, or think that you should value as a player if you are seeking, to work with a player development coach?
Um, to answer your question, I'd say for what you said about like what do you look for? What are some good things to look for in a trainer? And it's a trainer that's really gonna work for you, as far as like they're gonna watch film with you as you do. They're gonna come to your games when they can. They're gonna they're gonna really like it's like all the small things. They're gonna film your reps and they're gonna like look at it and really analyze and they're gonna do their job 100% of the time there and like off like when you're actually training, but off the court. All of the things you've done off the court have helped me substantially, and I really think that what you specifically have done for me as far as leaving Elko and why I've still decided to train with you is just like I said the amount of intention and the amount of intention and attention that you've given me, and if you've really like helped me take my game to the next level. As far as the best feeling working with a player development coach is working and repping something over and over and over again, whether it's a brand new skill or a skill you've learned. For example, one of the things that we worked on a couple summers ago is creating contact, especially with your shoulders on the drives, those slow steps, and just all these different types of bumps. And I was really bad at this, being pretty skinny, but also just not being used to it. I've never had player development, like you said. And I remember posting a video, and it was a game after we had a session that morning. And in that session, we had worked on that bump that we've been working on for the whole summer. And in the video, you can see me use it in a game. And I remember you calling me after and you just being like, we just worked on that this morning. And I was just, that feeling has happened a lot since then based off of all the stuff we've done. But it's just such a like, it's almost like, for example, playing piano. When you practice and it sounds terrible, right? You keep hitting the wrong key, you keep plucking the wrong string for guitar. When you finally get it down, it's just such a fulfillment, such a fulfilling feeling that you get. And I really do get that working with a player development coach. And I enjoy working with you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd love
it's been a pleasure working with you as well. What do you think the biggest thing, and it can be something that you took away from our training sessions, it could be something that you just took away from playing basketball altogether, but what do you think the biggest takeaway that you've had playing basketball? Like in your personal life, off court stuff.
Man, I'd have to attest to the discipline factor. The getting up in the morning, the going on the runs. Like I hate running, genuinely. But like learning for myself that I really do have to run to stay in shape and to be in the best physical shape that I can be in on the court is something that I've learned. And I think that's a skill that I can take to wherever my route takes me. Whether that's whatever job I end up working, wherever I end up playing, wherever you understand what I'm saying. I think that discipline is a factor that can be applied anywhere in all terms, in all sports and everything. Like in all parts of your life, you can apply that discipline factor. And I think that's something I've really learned from basketball, and I'm able to now take and apply it to every other part of my life.
Yeah, I think for somebody your age, like the amount of discipline and wherewithal you have to apply that to, I mean, not just even on court, but your work in the classroom, I think is a testament to that. Like you've taken all AP classes, you're a 3.8 GPA student, you seek tutoring, right? Like, and I think for players or kids that are 17 years old, I think at times that's hard for them to wrap their head around, what that looks like. And so, I want to give you your kudos in that because I think that's something that naturally you do really well.
And yet trust me when I tell you school is it's not my preferred activity. But it is something.
It's not most kids your age preferred activity.
True, but it is something that comes with the sport, and it comes with playing at the next level. So you're able to swallow that pill. It's like medicine. If you're willing to swallow the medicine, you'll feel better in the long run. So.
Yeah. I want to, before we finish, we're kind of getting close to wrapping up, but I wanted to ask, I have two different things that I wanted to ask. The first thing is, because obviously shooting is something that you do really well. I know that we've watched a lot of film on some of the best shooters in the game. I want you to give me your top 5 shooters of all time. Like your starting 5, like, doesn't have to be, point guard, shooting guard. It can be just top 5.
5 shooting guards.
Yeah, best shooter for you of all time.
I think number 1 goes without saying. We'll give it to Steph Curry.
It's on your sweater.
Yeah, it's been my favorite player. He's inspired me. He got me into the game watching him in elementary school. I still wear all these Warriors clothes to this day. We're not doing too good this season, but hopefully we'll turn it around. Yeah, so I'll say Steph Curry at 1. I think it's safe to put Ray Allen at 2. I'll do his splash bro, Klay Thompson at 3. Number 4, I honestly, this is a little bit biased. I just really love this player. I'm going to give it to Duncan Robinson.
We've watched a lot of film on him.
Yeah, it's my player comparison.
Yep.
So it's been really fun watching all that film and just getting to see, learn all the footwork and all that stuff. So I put him at the 4. And I'm going to give it to Larry Bird, Larry Legend.
Really?
5th one for a shooter, yeah.
No Reggie Miller on this list.
I'm a little biased for his rivalry with Michael Jordan, but
Okay.
I put him maybe at the 6.
Okay. It's a solid list. I like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
it's a bias, but
No, it's supposed to be. It's from your perspective,
Mhm.
so it's perfect.
yeah.
And then I'll kind of leave it up to you. I know I've been asking a lot of the questions, but I'll give you an opportunity to ask me something.
Man, I'd have to say, what has been your favorite, your favorite memory, and what's your favorite memory working with me? I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
So in the 3 to 4 years you've been working with me, what's your favorite memory? As far as this one is just, I don't care what the reason is, honestly. Well, what is your favorite memory working with me? And second one, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned as a player development coach? What's something that's whether something happened and you learned a lot from it, or just over time, what's the biggest takeaway that you've learned from being a player development coach?
Yeah. So I may ask you that second question again, but for the first question, I think, wow, we've had a lot of really fun moments in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's sticking out to me the most is when we were working with Reed this summer.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And you had one of the sticks that you were, you hold up to try to contest the shot. And we were all debating on whether or not, we were doing some drill, and we were all debating on whether or not you goaltended his shot. And just that moment where we all went back and we
All
were
around the
watching
camera.
the film was so fun and
Yeah.
funny. And that was something that I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I think your second question was what's the biggest thing that I've learned?
Yeah, whether it was a specific something that happened, was it whether it's an altercation or something that you've experienced during a session, or if nothing speaks to you there, is there a biggest takeaway if you could take away from being a player development coach, and what's the biggest thing you could give on to other player development coaches?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is it's all about the environment that you create.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so important when people are learning and getting better at something that they're in a space where they feel comfortable to do that, to make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and to be around other people that aren't going to judge them for that. And I think that's something I really, really have grown to try to be intentional about with my workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we do group sessions and there's always this aspect of, failure to trying something new or learning something different. And I think at times, I've seen players can be closed off when they feel as though an environment or situation is going to be one where they may be judged in or criticized for not performing well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned and that I hope to, that I've instilled in you as well is let's make the environment comfortable.
Definitely.
Let's make it comfortable so people can make mistakes, so people can ask questions, and ultimately so people can get better. Because at the end of the day, they're coming to work with me to improve their game.
Mm-hmm.
Some of which has to do with the skills on the court, and some of which has to do with some skills off the court.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall, if you care about people, if you treat people well, you make them feel comfortable, I think that you can really have an impact. And I think that you can also be really impacted by the growth that your players have as well.
I can attest to that as far as the comfortable environment. You've definitely instilled this in me. When having a session or walking into the gym, making sure you shake everyone's hand and making sure you know who everyone is, and just having that kind of sense of culture around. And I think that's a really important thing, like you said, for players to learn and be in that safe environment, in that environment where it's okay to fail, because at the end of the day, we're learning something new and we're just trying to get better, and that comes with failure. So I think you've done a really good job of that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming out.
Of course.
This is second episode, and I appreciate you being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm excited to see you guys on the next episode.